Tarsier Studios are masters when it comes to terrifying, mysterious, and scary worlds. The atmosphere in their games is truly unmatched.
I told you to leave.
I have been waiting so long for this game, but it's finally here. This video is going to be my first impressions and thoughts of the game, and I will make a more thought out, well put together review at a later date. But before I get into this video, spoiler warning. I will be talking about the entire game, including the ending, so if you haven't played the game, then just go and do it. Then come back to this video if you're interested in hearing what I have to say. So, for my first playthrough of the game, I decided to do it completely solo. I also played it right at launch, so there was no patches or bug fixes in the game while I was playing. The game launched at 2 PM on the 13th of February here in the UK, and I had finished the game by 5:30. It took me 3 hours and 16 minutes to finish the game, and that is basically my only major problem with the game. I know Tarsier Studios aren't known for making long games, but 3 hours and 16 minutes is incredibly short. But where the game falls short in overall length, it makes up for it by having the best atmosphere in any of their games, a ton of variety in the environments and enemies, and innovations in the gameplay from their previous titles. The Little Nightmares series has the same problem, but due to the amazing quality of the games, I don't mind. So I'm going to break down the game into a few different sections. The factory/Railyard, the town, the farm, the clock tower, the boat, and the city/war. Before we talk about the different areas in this game, for some context, everything is set on this one island and we are trying to rescue our friends from the monsters. One of the characters is also seeing visions of a sheep in this well. Okay, so, starting with the factory. This area is mostly used to teach the player the controls and tease what horrifying things you'll encounter later in the game. It's once you reach the Railyard where the game introduces you to the first monster. You can see him walking into the Railyard where he proceeds to crawl into someone's stomach. Play the outro. Before I talk about him, I just want to quickly mention the other enemy type in this level, the Skin. Which is a lovely, not creepy name for these things. They move around like snakes and it's disgusting. This man is the main antagonist of the level, and after a chase through the Railyard, he takes one of our friends and traps him in this town. The atmosphere in the town is immaculate. The rundown look with just a few lights scattered around and the movie theatre playing a repeating film that's just some ominous images. So, remember earlier when the man crawled into someone's stomach? Well, it turns out that he uses this as teleportation, and they're basically doors to anywhere in his town. One of the best moments in this area is when you're trying to run away and he teleports into the same room as you. This moment is awesome, but by far the best part is when you're fleeing the town in his ice cream truck and this happens. This was an amazing introduction to the game, and it felt like they built on what they did well in Little Nightmares 1 and 2. The main antagonist had a lot of screen time, and there was a ton of tense moments and brilliant environmental storytelling. So after escaping the ominous man, we have a peaceful boat journey and stop off here at this farm. This is by far the shortest segment in the game, and I really wish they did more here. Basically, you walk through this field, see some pigs, climb a lighthouse, and... And that's it. The whole segment. The Pelican has such a chilling, awesome design, and I really wish it had a bigger role in the game. They went to all the effort of designing this creature and only used it for 5 minutes. Maybe it will show up again in one of the DLCs, but this was quite disappointing to me. We then have to wait at the bus stop where the girl gets a vision about a sheep trapped in a well. There was one vision like this previously. It was right after we crashed the ice cream truck, but this is the first one to show the sheep growing and becoming more warped. These visions don't affect us now, but they will near the end of the game. So after taking the bus, we arrive at this mysterious building. This level uses a lot of the combat mechanics, so let me quickly talk about that. Unlike their previous attempt at combat, this is actually decent. It's a lot faster and easier to use. It's also nowhere near as annoying as it was in Little Nightmares 2. You don't use it very much throughout the game, but I'm glad they put some effort into making it enjoyable for the small amount of time the player is using it. But who are these things that we're fighting? Well, they're created by the main antagonist of the area. This monster. This creature, called the Mother from what I can find online, has an amazing design and is an incredibly threatening opponent. The first time you see it is when it reaches up from the darkness and grabs this pig. But your first interaction with it is when you're captured and need to escape the hole that it lives in. This area is awesome. It's also the only time I ran into a problem with the second player AI. It pulled me into the pit and killed me. Nice. So after running for our lives in this really cinematic chase and fighting the Mother in this boss battle, we save our friend and sneak onto these military vehicles. This area was a lot longer than the farm section, and the two different enemies played a much larger role than the Pelican did.
Why did you come back for us? Come on.
This leads us back to the boat and gives us the ability to fire an artillery cannon at this monster blocking the way. This monster will be relevant in a minute. So we use the boat to sail down the river until we encounter this, an even larger boat. In here we find a whale blocking the way out, so we need to get into some scuba gear and remove the eye out of the monster we just exploded. Awesome. After giving the whale a new eye, it peacefully moves out the way and... So moving past the boat, we make it to the city. Right after entering the city, the girl has one last vision about the sheep before... Why do we have to follow the sheep? So here we are in the final section of the game, the war segment. This area showcases really well how Tarsier Studios utilizes its setting. The environments are destroyed, run down, and horrifying to look at. There are two enemy types present in this area, the sheep, which you've already seen, and the soldiers. Multiple types of soldiers are seen in this mission, and those include the machine gun soldier, the exploding soldier, and the sniper. They all require different playstyles and strategies to escape, but by far the best is the sniper. They stay out of sight and will take shots at you whenever you go into the light. It adds a lot of stress to every move you take, and it's masterfully done. The machine gun soldier requires you to have good timing, moving between cover when they stop firing, and the explosive soldier just requires you to run away as fast as possible. The sheep can be seen a few times throughout the area, and every time you see it, it's grown bigger and more horrifying. Finally, near the end of the area, you find a tank and finally get to fight the sheep. And that's it. The end of the game. The ending leaves a lot up to the player and is incredibly mysterious. I'm not going to properly comment on the story yet as I want to look a bit more into it first, but it's really interesting and keeps to Tarsier's established style. If I had to guess though, based on what I've seen, I'd say that the game shows an endless cycle of going to the island, dying to the monster, and reawakening to do it again. At the start of the game, we see the sheep waking up in the well before growing into the monster we see at the end of the game. And in the ending cutscene, the girl is thrown into the same well and seems to once again reawaken. Everything on the island seems to be stuck in this cycle as we can see dead soldiers waking up and most of the animals seem rotted or zombie-like. Overall, I really like ReAnimal and I can't wait to see the DLC coming out in the future. As I mentioned at the start of the video, the game isn't perfect, it's really short and I did encounter some small freezes. Nothing game ruining, but it was annoying. If you enjoyed the video then please subscribe to the channel and feel free to watch some of my other videos here.